I was born and raised in Dublin. I went to Greendale Community School in Kilbarrack. Then I went to study classical animation in Ballyfermot, and when I graduated I started animating in Boulder Media in Dublin for two years, and then as soon as I could get some full-time work in comics, I left when I was 25. I used to get my comics from Raheny Public Library when I was really small, I'd say like 8 or 9, and I wasn't a big reader. I guess like a lot of little boys, I wasn't mad about reading when I was growing up, but I got the visual stimulation. It looked like cartoons on paper. The first ever comic book I read was a Tintin book, which would be in the European format. In Europe, in France, which is a massive comic market, they put out books in albums, they're called, which are 48-page, A4 sized, slim books with a hardcover. You've probably seen them. After Tintin and Asterix, I started reading the Dandy and Beano, like a lot of Irish kids. I was about 10 at that stage, and I was mad about it. I read Bunty, used to love Bunty. That was the girls' comic, or so they say. I remember a lot of E17 pictures on the back of those. Then I started reading American comics at 12. My friends at home on the north side of Dublin were collecting these comics, which I had no idea about, called X-Men and Spider-Man and Doctor Doom, all these American heroes, Batman, of course. And these were, to me, were far more glamorous than the European comics. They were like, because they were violent and they had like gorgeous women in them and gorgeous men in them, and it was like this whole other. I guess when I was 13 at that kind of age, I was like, wow, everything's so pretty. I spent about €100 or pounds or whatever it was back then a month on comic books. I had a part-time job in a chipper, and all I did was spend money on comics. I bought everything, I read everything. And then I got exposed to all sorts of different things. So that was really what set me on my way. In comic books, generally, you would have a person who would write the script, and the writer would send the penciler, it's called, the person who draws the pictures basically, would get the script from the writer, and then he would have a day, or she would have a day to draw it in pencil, and then that would be passed along to the inker, who would have another day or so to go over it all in ink, which wouldn't be just repeating exactly what the penciler did. There'd be a lot of flourish and line weights and embellishment there. So it's a whole different discipline. From the inker, it goes to the colorist, who would then add all the colors, obviously, as the name suggests. And then it would go to the letterer, who adds all the little speech balloons. So that's like the 5th person, I think, or the 4th person in the chain. And that's the old-fashioned generic way of doing it. But nowadays it gets a little more nebulous. I've been doing comics for 12 years and I've never had anybody ink more than 1 page, 2 pages, which seems to be a European thing. It seems to be an American system where it goes through the stages like animation would. So, and it is an American art form. It's considered, the Americans invented the art form, so I guess that is the base model, but we don't really stick to it here. What I'm doing now is inking over the pencils. You can see the blue line here. I pencil in blue lead, where a lot of people would pencil in the traditional graphite or grey. I just like blue. It's actually something from animation. So I like to draw in blue because it doesn't reproduce as much in a scan or in a photocopy. So you can drop the blue out of the image. When I scan this in and all the inks are finished, I will change the channels and take the blue out of the image. So all you'll be left with is the black. And it should look nice and clean, as opposed to now where you can see all the underdrawing and the construction of the figures and things. This is the shine on this guy's face mask. So I'll draw in this area, but I might decide that there's another little sheen on his mask, so I'll draw in the detail of a shine there, like that, and then fill that in black. So I kind of be like making those decisions as I go, but the broad strokes of what it should look like are all there in the blue pencil. So I have enough information to be going on with, basically. But it's more fun to leave that kind of stuff in the inking and not be doing everything twice in the exact same way that it was done the first time. And don't ask me how he sees out of this mask, because I don't know. There's 3 things in comic books. They say you've got to be good, you've got to be fast, and you've got to be easy to work with. And if you can do 2 out of the 3, you're laughing, like you'll be hired. But if you can do 3 of the 3, you'll never want for work. So I think the Irish people are good at having the 3. Now, whether we're good or not, this is debatable, but we're definitely timely, and we're definitely easy to work with. So, like a lot of jobs, it's just common sense. Like, if I'm being honest, there's so many people who can draw better than me. I maintain that, like, I can draw quite well, but I wouldn't be the most talented person I've ever met. But there's a lot of those people that won't sit down and not watch TV and not have a podcast or a documentary or whatever on the screen beside them and just put the head down and do the work. It's because it's so work oriented. It's so intensive doing comic books that if you can't put in the hours, you can be the most talented person in the world, but you won't make it. You'll fall by the wayside. I guess it's like in football, right? It's the hard work versus talent thing. And if you can marry the two, that's your sweet spot. Like, so far, I'm managing to pull the wool over various eyes. So I'll keep trying. Yeah, but it's hard, but it's great. I do all these talks to comic book audiences at conventions and things, and it's always the same people. And it's because people are so dedicated to break into the industry and it's a good thing that you see the same faces year in, year out. That means they're progressing and they're getting closer. But you do say the same thing a lot to the same people. So when I went and did the IDI talk for the Bread and Butter series, that was actually a bit refreshing because I only recognized 2 people in the audience, which meant that I was actually talking to new people. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. I think it's very important to have the kind of bodies like the IDI behind us, because a lot of creatives think they can do without. And I don't. I'm a little bit more needy than that. So I'm always willing to take whatever help I can get. And people who will fund events like this, like the Bread and Butter with Epsilon or IDI, and like I was saying about new avenues, for me, that's something I hadn't explored yet. And I'm all for that support.